And those sorts of stories, more people need to hear about, because that's the potential if VIDA gets bigger for a lot more people.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reality is that every year we have so many of those type of stories. Actually, last year, one that was really heartwarming was to learn about a single mom that was attending the nursing program at South Texas College. And through her VIDA counselor, we found out that she was facing, some challenges to, stay in the program. And we come to find that she's homeless and she's living out of her car with her 2 small children. So thankfully, we were able, to find some partners, one of them being the Christian Manor Transitional Housing. So we were able to secure an apartment through that project for her and her family. And she's set to graduate this coming December.
And welcome back, Rio Grande Guardian viewers. Pleased to have you back for the latest in our podcast series. And I'm absolutely delighted with our special guest today. She's agreed to join us, Felida Villarreal. Felida, how are you?
Doing well. Thank you, Steve, for the invitation and having me here today.
You are very welcome. I'm super pleased that you are here today because we're going to talk all about your group, the Valley Initiative for Development and Advancement, otherwise known as VIDA. It's got a fantastic history here in the Rio Grande Valley. We're going to learn all about that. And we're going to talk about your latest annual report card, which was so impressive. And we're going to talk about the interaction of VIDA with Hidalgo County Judge Richard Cortez's Prosperity Task Force. I know you're definitely involved in that. But before we do any of this, I want to start by saying I just saw a posting on social media that really attracted my attention. The Hispanic executive interviewed you, video interview, and you were interviewed and you connected with the former HUD Secretary and San Antonio Mayor, Julian Castro, and he is now leading a group I had not heard of called the Latino Community Foundation. So if you don't mind, tell us what happened there. Do you know why you were invited and what was the message you were giving that group?
Sure. So, yes, it was definitely a very exciting opportunity. I had the opportunity to connect a couple years ago with Hispanic executive at a conference. I was in Chicago and they're based from over there. So I met the team. And since then, we've developed, a very nice partnership. And they recently invited me to do this video interview with Julian Castro, now in that new role, as you mentioned. And I think it was an opportunity to dive into a lot of the issues surrounding the nonprofit sector, especially for organizations serving Latino communities, which is, perfectly in alignment with what VIDA does here in the Rio Grande Valley. And I was very grateful that I had the opportunity to ask him a couple of questions that I think were very relevant to the type of work that we do. We touched a little bit about how nationwide right now the philanthropic investment is less than 2% for Latino serving organizations, which is a statistic that is, incredibly disappointing. And it's a challenge, a very real challenge that we are up against as nonprofits, especially when we're seeking funding at a national and state level. So, addressing those concerns and bringing those topics out into discussion and having those conversations, I think, with leaders such as Julian Castro is really important to bring that awareness and hopefully work toward changing that.
So you're telling me, and you learned this through that interview perhaps, that only 2% of all the philanthropic money that goes to nonprofits, only 2% finds its way to Latino-led nonprofits.
Exactly.
That's the story?
Yeah.
That is incredible. Were you shocked to learn that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope it's a story that we as nonprofits across the country continue to work to change that. And of course, he also shared a little bit about the work at Latino Community Foundation, which is very heavily focused on civic engagement and, expanding impact for Latino communities and expanding equitable opportunities. So it's really a mission that really resonated with us at VIDA.
And so is this new group, they may not be new, they may have existed, and I apologize if that's the case, new to me, Latino Community Foundation, headed by Julian Castro. is part of their group's mission statement to increase those numbers, to get more investment from the philanthropic world into Latino-led nonprofits?
Absolutely. So they also have developed a incredibly large giving circle. And so through that, part of their mission is, to empower philanthropic leaders and to encourage increased investment in Latino-led organizations.
And the fact that that's probably, you were speaking there on a national stage because Julian is a national figure. That podcast, that interview is going to be seen all around the country. And so for you to be representing our region, the Rio Grande Valley, and telling our story, that's great, and it's very important.
Thank you. No, yes, we were very excited, completely honored for that opportunity, and definitely hope to bring, increased promotion to not only VIDA, but our entire Rio Grande Valley region that is just booming right now.
And so what were the most important points you wanted to get across to that audience through the interview with Julian?
Definitely, the impact and the role that nonprofits have in our current, economy and in things that, like workforce development. There was another highlight that recently I read in 2022. Across the nation, nonprofits contributed $1.4 trillion to the economy. So that in itself, I think it's huge to highlight the work that nonprofits do that a lot of times may go unnoticed. And I think that as a nonprofit, we're a huge economic driver. And if we're able to partner with other organizations like the Latino Community Foundation, like local governments, like state, federal governments as well, then we can definitely expand that impact and that outreach tenfold.
Very good, very good. Okay, we'll move specifically now to VIDA. Tell us when you joined the group. I assume that you worked your way through and the executive director position became available at some point, so you have quite a bit of history with the group, but also can you take us back to the beginning? Because it's been quite a few years that VIDA's been around. How did it start? What was its mission statement at the beginning? How has it evolved?
Sure. So like you mentioned, it does have a very long history, right? It was founded in 1995, so almost 30 years now. It was founded by the efforts of Valley Interfaith and local industry leaders at the time that really saw a need in our community for workforce training, for job training, especially among the communities that were low income and that lacked the skill and the opportunity to secure high-paying jobs, and that in the long run has contributed to high levels of poverty. And so that's what our mission started off being, right? Helping our residents achieve economic prosperity through job training efforts. And throughout the years, I could say that we've demonstrated great innovation and evolving with industry trends and developing new partnerships, and ultimately expanding our team, our annual budget to serving now almost 800 students annually. And
no doubt you could do a lot more if you had the funding, correct?
Absolutely.
And what I like about it also is you still have that connection to the past and the origins of the group, because I know that some of the Valley Interfaith leaders are still on your board.
Absolutely. I think that is extremely important. Actually, right now we have a 14-member board, and half of the members are Valley Interfaith leaders. And they continue to be very active in our community. They're huge advocates of our program, and they really continue advocating for more funding for programs like VIDA.
And there is a certain city commissioner in McAllen that thinks the world of the group as well. Tell me about Tony and his passion for the project.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's currently our board chairman. He's been, he is one of the founding board members since the very beginning. He has a huge passion for the organization, for our mission. I can definitely say that he is actively involved in everything that we do, from fundraising to advocating for funding. So he's one of our biggest cheerleaders, and I'm super grateful for his support and his continued commitment throughout the years to be a part of the organization.
And I know in terms of the local funding, you do look for support from various cities. Are there any cities that you want to give a shout out to? And do you want to take this opportunity to make your pitch to say, look, there are other communities that are not supporting us, but we could do a great job in their community with that support?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would say right now we're very grateful to have a lot of the support from most of the cities throughout the RGB. Like you mentioned, there are some that, don't invest in our program yet. I would like to give, a huge shout out to the city of McAllen, who has continued investing into our program, currently now at more than $500,000 annually. Similarly, the city of Brownsville also invests a little over $300,000 a year. So I would say those two are our anchor cities that are, prioritizing the investment in our program and really believe in the work that we do.
I remember going to one of your annual galas or something many years ago, and there was a sort of a case study. There was a lady who came from a very poor, humble beginning. She probably, if I can remember correctly, she may have been a single mum. She had young kids, and with your help, the support, the wraparound services you gave her, she was able to go and to get a certificate in the world of nursing, work her way up, and she ended up on six-figure salary, and those sorts of stories more people need to hear about, because that's the potential if VIDA gets bigger for a lot more people.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reality is that every year we have so many of those type of stories. Actually, last year, one that was really heartwarming was to learn about a single mom that was attending the nursing program at South Texas College. And through her VIDA counselor, we found out that she was facing, some challenges to, stay in the program. And we come to find that she's homeless and she's living out of her car with her two small children. So thankfully, we were able, to find some partners, one of them being the Christian Manor transitional housing. So we were able to secure an apartment through that project for her and her family. And she's set to graduate this coming December.
And what will she do? What will her career be?
So she will be a registered nurse.
And the trajectory of her family as a result of that?
It's completely life-changing.
Exactly. I'm going to move forward a little bit. Just within the last year, you had a big announcement with South Texas College. And there was a gentleman that came in from out of the valley, was just blown away by what STC had in the facility there. And that was in the healthcare field as well. But I know that maybe you were given a big check presentation, but there was a lot of excitement for VIDA then, and that connection that you have made with STC. Can you talk about that?
Definitely. I think South Texas College, again, is one of our biggest training partners. They're extremely supportive of our program. They're also an investor in our program. And through that grant announcement that we made, we were able to secure some software and technology investment to their nursing labs. And some of the students now will be able to do their clinicals virtually. Like you mentioned, the owner of that tech company, originally from Wisconsin, and they're based out of there, it was their very first time visiting the Valley. So, of course, the advertisement that goes on a lot of times is very much negative regarding to our region and issues like immigration and security and things of that nature. But he was very much impressed, like you said. And I think that's a story that we all have a responsibility to continue trying to change that and to really show all the wonderful things that the Valley has to offer.
Well, I don't remember the guy's name, but I certainly remember his comments because we wrote about it. He drove down here. He didn't know what to expect. He thought South Texas was San Antonio, and he had to keep on driving south. And he just doesn't know what he's letting himself in for. Why have I done this? And then he walks through the door at STC, and he said, "You have got world-class facilities. That was his phrase.
Yeah,
that this
absolutely.
world-class facilities STC, and he didn't even know where the valley was, and to see us on the border with that sort of project going on, and like you say, he's going to take that back to his company, and spread the word about our region.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was actually something very inspiring because he mentioned, he owns a large tech company where he's made installations in Ivy League schools like Yale University. And for him to say that he was very impressed with the world-class technology at STC, it's a huge compliment.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, thank you for that. Now we're going to move on, as I mentioned before, to talk about your latest annual report card. And you're very pleased with the numbers and the trajectory that you're on. And there were a couple of really good testimonials in there. So if you don't mind, run through the numbers of where VIDA stands right now, how many people you're helping, and anything else you feel was important in that report card.
Sure. So in 2023, we operated with a budget of about $3.3 million. We served 627 students, all from low-income backgrounds. We also did an economic impact study with UTRGV. And so based on the data that we've provided, they came up with an ROI. So their data shows that for every dollar invested in our program, our communities and donors receive a return on investment of over $15. So that ROI, that investment, that our community benefits from, like with programs like VIDA, is just transformational.
Had you ever done anything like that before, of asking a third party, an independent group, to analyze your work and for you to then be able to tell the community this is the return on investment that you get?
So we had in the past, however, I would say it wasn't on such a regular basis. We were doing that maybe every 5 years or so, but I definitely think that moving forward, it's something of high importance, and hopefully we can do it now every year instead of just every 5 years.
And how are you doing in terms of getting the message out, telling the community this is the effectiveness of our program?
I think they really appreciate that. When we do our funding proposals, our presentations with the city and the commissioners, that's the type of data that they like to see, right? And especially when you're looking at something with public funds, we try to, or I think it's incredibly important to be as transparent as possible and to demonstrate to them where the impact is going and where the funds are being allocated to and what is their return on that dollar.
And I know there was a certain county judge that had a few comments in that report. Tell us about those.
Yeah, so we're incredibly grateful for the ongoing support of Judge Cortez. He has given us the opportunity to serve on the Prosperity Task Force. I currently am part of the counseling subgroup. I think that he is a huge advocate of our program of investing in human capital to address some of the poverty challenges that our region faces. He is a strong believer of education, workforce training, and that's a need. And I don't think that's a need that's ever going to go away. I think the more that we can encourage equitable opportunities for higher education, for job training, that will enable us to build a competitive workforce that is ready for tomorrow's jobs.
So it goes without saying that your work in VIDA fits very neatly into the goals of that Prosperity Task Force. They're all about, their mission statement when they started out was to tackle poverty in Hidalgo County, and that's what you've been doing all these years, nearly 30 years. Very pleased you must be so pleased with the judge for putting an emphasis on that, on the subject of poverty, which had never been done before, but at a county-wide level.
Yeah, definitely. I'm incredibly grateful for his support, for his advocacy, and I think moving forward, it's definitely a collective effort. I think we've been able to expand our outreach and our impact thanks to the valuable partnerships that we've been able to build, including Hidalgo County, different employers, institutions of higher ed, and so many other community-based organizations in our region that are doing wonderful work.
Well, Felida, these were all the questions I had. Have I missed anything out? Is there anything else you'd like to say to the viewers about the work of VIDA and your future plans?
I would just say invite anyone who may be interested in learning more about the work that we do to visit our website or our annual report card, that there's definitely an impact with the supportive services that we provide. Yes, there's a lot of education opportunities, but we often hear that students may not necessarily finish a college degree or a credential after they start. And it's so many different obstacles that they face that unfortunately impact the college success or the training success. So it's things like childcare, transportation, food insecurity, all these other barriers that are that must be addressed so that we can continue accelerating student success and student access. And so that's what VIDA continues to achieve. And thank you again for the opportunity to join you. And it's a pleasure to work with you. And I hope to definitely stay in touch.
Well, Felida, thank you so much. Felida Villarreal, Executive Director of VIDA. We've learned a lot. I really appreciate you coming by.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.